Hello, welcome back to Mr. Weeder Maths. We are moving on to fractional powers. Ooh! Now, believe it or not, you have seen this before if you've been watching my videos. What a half power is something very, very unique. Okay, now I'm going to take 25 to the power of a half and I'm going to multiply it by itself. Now, if you watch my earlier videos or know your knowledge, we have the same base number. I'm going to add the powers together. Well, half plus a half is 1. So this will become 25 to the power of 1, which is just 25. This is a concept you have seen before. You've seen it in surds, okay? Because a surd multiplied by itself becomes the normal number, all right? Like we did in our classic videos, root 2 multiplied by root 2 would equal 2, for example, okay? Or root 25 multiplied by root 25 became 25. So that tells me that our half power is a square root. Because if I write it underneath, 5 multiplied by 5 would also equal 25. So half powers are just square roots. And that's great. That's a good fun fact that we've discovered. All right. If we were going to do it over here on the side, as an example, I've got 36 to the power of a half. Well, what is the square root of 36? And that would just be 6. Okay. If we were going to do another one, what is 100 to the power of a half? Well, again, a half power is just a square root. So what's a square root of 100? It is 10. That's it. Okay, so when we have a half power, it is a square root. Okay, so we'll move on to the next fractional power. So half power is a square root. Now I'm going to do a similar type of introduction for the next fractional power. So this time I've got 64 to the power of a third, and then I'm going to keep going. I'm going to times this 3 times till I get a power of 1. So I got a third and a third, and that would give me 64 to the power of 1, because a third plus a third plus a third is 3 thirds, 3 thirds is 1. So this is telling me that this is a really particular type of root. This is a cube root, okay? Now a cube root we write slightly differently to a square root, but it's actually because we're really lazy. So that's what a cube root looks like, okay? Where there's a 3, I've probably drawn the 3 a bit too big, but a 3 out of the square root symbol. Technically on a square root, there is technically a 2 there, technically, but we never write it. But on a cube root, we have to write it to symbolize that it's cube root. So this is a cube root of 64 times a cube root of 64 would equal 64. Because it's asking what times itself 3 times makes 64. Now this is where you might need to know your cube numbers. Okay, so your cube numbers are really important for this topic. Knowing how many things multiply to make certain numbers. Now they're usually smaller than you think. So on this particular case, it is going to be 4, because 4 times by 4 is 16, and 16 times by 4 gives me 64. Okay, so let's do a bit of practice on the cube numbers now. So for cube numbers, I'm going to do, let's go over here, 8 to the power of 1/3. So it's asking what times itself 3 times makes 8. Now in your head, if you're ever struggling, start with the smallest number. Think 1 times 1 times 1. Well, that's just 1, so it's not 1. 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4, times by 2, 8. So the answer is 2, okay? Next one, let's do 125 to the power of a third. This one, big hint, should be it ends in a 5, but again, if you're unsure, you go up through your numbers. We did 1 and 2 earlier. Now 3 times 3 times 3, that's 9, 27. So it's not 3. 4 times 4 times 4, we've just done that. That's 64. So it's got to be bigger than 4. 5 times 5 is 25. Times it by 5, look at that. It's got to be 5, okay? Because 5 cubed makes 125. So 125 to the power of a third is 5. That's our fractional ones. A little bonus one for you as we end this video is 16 to the power of a quarter. Now, I'm hoping you're spotting what is happening. The bottom number is telling you the type of root. So this is telling me I want the 4th root. What multiplies by itself 4 times to make 16? Again, start with your smallest number. 1 times 1 times 1, got to be 1. 2 times 2 is 4, times it by 2 is 8, times it by 2 is 16. So it is going to be 2. I'm going to go with 90% of the time, it's probably going to be a 2. If it's a larger than 3 on the denominator here, is probably going to be 2 is your answer, okay? Or you're dealing with 2 to the power of something. The other ones are going to be too large for you to figure out, okay? So your takeaway from this, the bottom of the fraction tells you the root in the power, all right? Right, go practice some basic fractions and give it a go. Enjoy. Bye-bye.